All right, so to understand fraction multiplication, let's look at this story problem. So Sheila vacuums half of her house. She then mops three-fourths of her house that she has already vacuumed. How much of her house has she now vacuumed and mopped? So I'm going to first show how much of the house that she's vacuumed, and I'll show that in some blue. So we can just split this in half, sort of even, not exactly, but basically. So this is half of her house in blue, and this is the section that she's vacuumed. Okay, then she mops three-fourths of her house that she has already vacuumed. So looking just at the blue part of her house, the mopped or the vacuum part of her house, we're gonna now split that half into fourths. So I'll show that in orange. So we'll just show one, two, three. That was very uneven. Four. So now three out of these four sections have been also mopped. Okay, but I'm gonna just extend those lines all the way across because we wanna have the same size pieces, all of them the same size. We can't really have these little rectangles and then this big one over here. We want it all to just be the nice same size pieces. So that way we can compare and understand them in relation to each other. So if we count up how many orange and blue squares we have, remember that represents the parts that have been both vacuumed and mopped. We count up one, two, three. And then if we count up how many total squares, or sorry, rectangles, one, two, three, four, five, six, seven, eight. Okay, so that means 3/8 of her house has been vacuumed and mopped. We can write this out as just a standard traditional multiplication problem by showing um, 1/2 times 3/4. So the way we would do this traditionally is you just multiply across and then solve to get your answer of 3/8. But we can also see this problem in the diagram. If we go back and look, the top is saying one group of three. So that is the group that are colored in both the blue and orange. And that's basically we had the half, we split the half into the fourths, and we took three out of those fourths. And that gave us our one group of three, or the kind of chosen pieces that had been both vacuumed, which was a half, and mopped, which was three out of those half pieces. All right, and then the bottom here, there's two groups of four. That just refers to the denominator, which is really just how many pieces we have all together now, which is eight. And that's because if you see here, we took the half, split it into fourths, which made eight pieces altogether. Or you can just see the two groups vertically here, and then four groups going across. So um, that is how we get our answer. 3/8, either the traditional way or seeing it visually in the diagram. Okay, so let's take a look at multiplication with negative integers. So this is a problem. Jim, Joyce, Janice, Jack, and John all owe their mother, Jerry, $3. How much do they owe her altogether? So basically, we have five people. They each owe $3. Um, and whenever we have people owing something, we're going to have negative values. You can only have positive values if you actually have that money. But if you owe it to someone, basically you don't have that money and there's a lack of that money, like there needs to be $3 that you give to that person, but because there's not been, like you haven't given to them yet, there's going to be that lack, the negative, which just represents kind of like the deficit or how much you need to make up to them to get back to a positive value or to zero. So for this problem, we have 5 times 3, but it's going to be a negative 5. And the reason for this is we can think of the negative in front of the 5 as meaning the opposite of. So let's say it was positive 5. We'll do it over here. If we had positive 5 times 3, that would just give us 5 groups of 3. And the 3's in this case would be positive because they're just positive in the problem, or in that, if that was the case. So this is 5 groups of positive 3. But now when we put that negative sign in front of the 5, what that means is the opposite of. So now instead of having these nice 5 groups of positive 3, we're going to have the opposite of that, which is going to be 5 groups of negative 3. So we're going to show that, which makes sense because when we just talked about before, since they all owe their mother money, they're going to all have a negative balance amount. Whereas in this case, if they all had $3 and they didn't owe anything, then they could just have a positive value. They would have 15 or 5 times $3 altogether. But in this case, it's the opposite of that. So we're going to have 5 groups of negative 3 since they're owing their mother that. So let's count up how many negatives that would be. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15. So altogether, you're going to have 15 negatives, or which would just be negative 15. So the answer is going to be they owe their mother $15, but that's really an amount of negative 15.